Live, are we? Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for coming. So today we're going to do an orientation for the postgraduate courses in social work. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge and pay respect to the traditional custodians of the land upon which we meet. We'd also like to acknowledge and pay respect to the elders of the land, both past and present and emerging. So I'm Carmela Bastian. I'm the course coordinator for the Master of Social Work, and this is Chris Reynolds. And Chris is a lecturer in social work and also in the Graduate Certificate for Trauma and Responsive Practice. So just a little bit about myself. I've been at Flinders since 2011 when I started my PhD. I come from a child protection practice background, and now after completing my PhD, I continue to research in child protection. I'm still very well connected to practice, and I teach in working with children and families. So SOAD 9110 is the topic that I teach. Chris, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. About just over a decade ago, I was sitting where you're sitting, and I came to social work fairly late, but in the last 10 years I've worked in a variety of areas, addictions and suicide prevention, family support work, but predominantly in school settings, working with children and families.
Great, thanks Chris. So we've got a few polls that we're going to use, so to be a little bit interactive. So which courses are you enrolled in? So if you could use your app and just tell us, are you enrolled in the Master of Social Work, or are you enrolled in the Graduate Certificate in Trauma Responsive Practice? And Chris is going to keep an eye on the technology here.
The little poll's open and it's running, so I can see some results turning up.
Can we see how many people are enrolled online?
Can I see how many enrolled online?
Okay.
11.
There's quite a few students enrolled online as well.
Yep, we've got about 11 sitting online, I'd say.
Please come in. How are we going?
We've currently got 100% in the MSW.
So I'll keep going while people answer that?
Sure.
Yep.
We'll leave it open.
Yeah, we'll leave that one open. People can still. So then we just want to hear a little bit about yourself. So tell us, Chris is going to open some more polls. So tell us where you are today. There's a few funny options there for you to think about. And then where do you live? And tell us about your previous degrees as well, or qualifications. We're just going through the app. We've just got some polls going. Yep.
So where are you today?
Sorry, so what is this?
Oh, the app, you would have got an email about it, the event app?
Yep.
Yep. So you just need to log on to the this session.
So you'll find there are 3 different polls there. One, where are you today? One, where do you live? And the other is, tell us about your previous degree or degrees. My thing's just logged out.
How are we going? Have you answered all those ones? Shall I keep going?
Yeah, my system's crashed.
Oh, okay. I'll keep going then.
Go.
All right, so I just want to go over the Master of Social Work. So I just thought, let's start with a definition of social work. So when we think about social work, it's a practice-based profession and it is also an academic discipline. So it does engage in research, knowledge building, and finding out what works with the people with whom we work. It's about social change, it's about development, and it's about building cohesion in society. It's about giving people liberation and freedom and empowering them. It's informed, so the values that inform our work as social workers, it's about social justice, human rights, and also being respectful to all the people with whom we work. And it's informed by theory. So lots of theories and knowledge come from other disciplines, and we also produce our own knowledge through practice-based research and interventions. One of the unique things about social work is that we don't just focus on individuals. We focus on individuals, but we focus on them within their societal structures, understanding their experiences. So we don't just look at the individual, but we look at the individual within the environment in which they live, okay? And we look at that interaction. So how are we going with the technology there, Chris?
Back online, we've got our results coming in.
So we've got a bit of a word cloud on the app. So I just want you to identify what word or idea really connects with you about the definition of social work. So what really stands out for you? So I just want you to put a word down and then we're going to look at that. We'll just give you a few more minutes, and the people who are online, give them a few minutes. It's quite glaring. Jeremy, I was wondering, do you mind closing though? Yeah, because it's really glary in here. They can't see the... What sort of words are coming through, Chris?
So it's interesting because it keeps on shifting as people put in different things, but social justice seems to be pretty much front and centre.
Yep.
Empowerment's coming up quite a few times, human rights. But it's as the cloud ever emerges, we see different things being prominent.
You might have some other words that might be important to you as you think about social work that, you know, isn't reflected in there. Shall I move on or give people a bit more?
I think we're pretty good, I'd say.
Okay. All right, so let's look at the Master of Social Work course. So the Master of Social Work is a 72 postgraduate program. So everyone that comes into the program already has an undergraduate degree. It's taught over 2 years full-time, and it's a course that is accredited by the Australian Association of Social Workers. So once you graduate, you're actually eligible for membership, I was going to say registration, membership for the Australian Association of Social Workers. And we're actually going through a process of accreditation this year. So just to make sure that what we're teaching you is in line with what's recommended. So there are 20 days if some people study online. So if you do study online, you need to be at least 20 days on face-to-face learning. So you need to come onto campus for some of the topics, and you need to have that connection, which is one of the requirements. There are also 2 500-hour placements. So there's one after first semester, and then there's one at the end of the second year. So they come to 500 hours. Some people who have worked in human services or have some experience can apply for one of those placements to be recognised as, or your experience to be recognised as placement. But that will only occur for one, and it has to go through quite a rigorous process to make sure that everyone meets their graduate attributes as determined by the Australian Association of Social Workers. So once you actually finish, we have these graduate attributes. What this means is the ASW says that you need to complete your degree with these capabilities. So you will be assessed throughout the course, and you will demonstrate that you can achieve, or that you will achieve, these capabilities. So at the end of the course, you will be familiar with and be able to use the Code of Ethics, the ASW Code of Ethics, to guide you in your practice, and also to guide you through any ethical dilemmas to help you make decisions about social workers or social work. So when we have sometimes difficult decisions to make, we have a guide that will help us through that dilemma. You will identify as a social worker and as a professional social worker with integrity. So there are certain aspects of being a social worker that you need to fulfil and demonstrate that professionalism. In your interactions, you will be inclusive and respectful of people and their diversity. So we work with all people. We particularly work with vulnerable people, so we need to be inclusive of everyone with whom we work. You'll have a sound knowledge base to inform your social work practice. So social work is not just a doing, we also need to have a knowledge base, understand theories that inform our work. So we need to have this knowledge informs the work that we do rather than just doing, okay? So there needs to be a basis from which you work and informs your social work practice. You'll be capable of working in a team. Now, I know people say they get really sick of working in groups, but it's really important. Social work is not a profession that people work on their own because they make very difficult decisions. So it's a profession where you'll be working in a team, you'll be working with other people, and you'll demonstrate that capability as we progress through the course. And then you'll also demonstrate the importance of ongoing professional development. Sometimes people think once they finish their degree, they never have to study again. Well, I did my PhD, and Chris is doing his PhD, so we all keep studying, and it's important to keep up with new developments, new knowledge, new practices. Did you want to add anything to that, Chris?
I guess the idea of just teamwork, when we hear that, sometimes our minds go, oh, working with other social workers, but we often find ourselves working interprofessionally. So it's not just about social workers working with social workers, it's about our ability to work with a whole range of other professions, whether that's in allied health or in policy settings. So we very much bring our social work perspective into those teams, and that can often be quite challenging, but very rewarding as well.
Yeah. And it's also about being able to work with our clients, being able to build those relationships, demonstrating that we have that communication, that ability to build relationships and work with people who are experiencing very difficult situations. So when we look at the program of study, it looks like this. looks a little bit complicated, but I'm going to go through it a bit more. So the placement sits in the first year in second semester, okay? And then the last placement sits at the end of your second year. Now, obviously, some people's study plans don't look exactly like that. You might not follow that same program, depending if you've had credits or if you're doing it part-time, it might look a little bit different. But that's, generally speaking, that's the topics you need to complete to get your degree. So when we look at the first year, the first semester in the first year is really providing you with a foundation about starting your first placement. So the foundation for the first placement, you will learn about working with individuals. You'll be able to demonstrate you can develop relationships, that you can talk to people, ask questions. You will also learn about working with diverse groups of people and the structural impacts on Aboriginal people and also engaging with that diversity. You will demonstrate an understanding of working professional context. So what are human services? Many social workers work in organisations, whether they're government or non-government organisations. So you will develop an understanding of that because that's where you will do your placements as well. And then you will also start to build your knowledge, theories and knowledge that inform social work practice. So once you complete those 4 topics, then you're ready to have your first placement, and it'll be a good grounding to start your first placement. So you do your first placement, then you have a couple of other topics about research and working with groups and community work as well. And then in the second year, you start to look at more specialised areas of practice. So you'll start to look at trauma and resilience, how that really infiltrates and many of the impacts on many of the people with whom we work. Then you'll understand working with people who experience mental health issues or in the mental health system, working with children and families. And then you'll also continue to develop your knowledge about systems and organisations and social policy and how they inform our work. And then the second placement, and then the last 2 topics, you will build a specialisation about working with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and then you will consolidate all your learning and about working through ethical dilemmas. Now there's a lot of information there, so I just want to pause there for a moment and see if people have got any questions. And Chris has got another poll for us as well. So do you want to open that poll?
Sure can.
So maybe if people just want to look at the poll, which part of the program are you looking forward to most? But I also want to pause there and see if people have got any particular questions.
And for those online, you can type a question into the Q&A for those listening remotely.
Any questions coming up on? No?
No?
Anyone got any questions? It's all clear? Yep. I might just
Yep, so I'm going to run up
Oh, yeah.
with the...
Oh, it's just so that people who are online can hear you as well. Yep.
Yeah, one of the courses I enrolled for the first term about working with individual.
Yep.
It just didn't appear on the timetable. So how is it like? And it said like non-semester. What does that mean?
Non-semester. So we have really we have semester 1, which starts in. Oh, Chris, you can explain this one because this is your topic.
So it is, yeah. So there are, for working with individuals, there are 2 versions of the topic. One is the semester topic, and one is called the non-semester topic. They both start next week, and the big difference is that the semester topic has workshops throughout the semester. So there are 8 3-hour workshops during the semester, and the non-semester version has all of those 8 workshops in 1 week in September. So we often find that students who may live remotely, they'll engage online for the first 8 weeks, and then they'll come in, and in 4 days they do 24 hours worth of workshops plus an assessment. Whereas if you're on semester, you've enrolled in the semester version, you'll commence your workshops in week 2, and you work your way through with a 3-hour workshop for 8 weeks. Which I think's kinder, but people are living remotely. It's like, yep, I'll come down to university for those days. And as Camilla said, one of the accreditation points is to be on campus. So that's also why we deliver that it's an intensive version. So if you're intending to answer your question, if you're wanting to be, if you're here on campus, enrol in the semester version, and you'll see then the workshops populated in your timetable. If you want to do the non-semester, select that, and it should come up, but it will come up as a block, a 5-day block in September. Okay? Does that answer the question? Great.
So there are other topics that are taught in intensives, so where there might be a few weeks of online learning, but then people need to come onto campus to spend 4 days or a week. So some of the ones that are on in intensives, this one, the groups and communities, is offered as an intensive. Trauma and resilience is an intensive, and also social work with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people is offered an intensive. So across all those topics, then that means that you comply with the accreditation requirements where you're on campus for a number of days. Now, obviously, if you're on campus all the time, it's not such an issue, but for people who are studying online or externally, they need to come onto campus for a certain number of days. Are there any other questions? So I might continue then. So as students and also educators, we have expectations that we need to fulfil. So one of the things that is also part of the accreditation is that students need to fulfil inherent requirements. So what does that actually mean? On the Master of Social Work course page, there is a link there for you to look at this in more detail. But what it essentially means is that you need to have the necessary skills, abilities and behaviours to participate, progress and graduate from the course. Okay? So, and this means that you need to have professional or personal capacity, so you need to be able to interact with people, you need to be able to be self-aware, and you also need to be able to communicate. So there's certain abilities that you actually need to complete the course. You also need to have some cognitive or thinking abilities that you can complete. So you need to be able to write, you need to be able to think critically, and you need to be able to communicate through the written word as well. So those requirements are also part of passing your placement, completing your placement. So it's about, with any profession, there are certain abilities that you need to have to complete. Because you are, once you start the course, you're really emerging social workers. You're all adults, so it's about starting to think as a professional social worker, starting to act as a professional social worker and embedding those values in your everyday practice. And these values and skills are also integrated into the Charter of Professional Conduct for student social workers, and they're about expectations not only of you but also what you should expect from us as educators as well. So it's really worth taking the time to look at those, and if you've got any questions, let us know. Did you want to add to any of those, Chris?
I guess the other one point to underline is that social work is a very language-rich profession. We do a lot of this, a lot of talking, and we do a lot of writing. And I think part of the degree, over the course of the degree, it's like we're in training to build those muscles. And so, as an example, in the field I teach in, to write a case note is really challenging, but then if in the field, if you might be seeing a dozen people a day, you're case noting them, and so you develop the muscle to do that. You develop the muscles to sit with a client who's suffering for 50 minutes and be okay, whereas initially it's like 5 minutes and I'm exhausted and I can't remember anything. So there's this practical training that we go through over the next 2 years, not only within the topics, but certainly within the placement. The rich learning that occurs on placement through immersing yourself in a context is really, really powerful.
So it's about taking up those opportunities to learn in a safe space in university. So you're provided with simulations or opportunities about what it might be like before you start your placements, before you go out as professional social workers. So it's important to engage with that. And also important to treat each other with respect, treat educators with respect, and engage in those values that really underpin social work practice. Okay, are any of you doing the graduate certificate for trauma responsive practice? Do we get any?
Is anybody online? If you could, we didn't get any in the initial poll. Is everybody online who's doing the trauma informed? Yes, we've got someone from that's a GCSI. We've got a couple of questions emerging.
Okay, let's hear those questions.
One question is from Cash, which is, how do we decide on a field placement? Do we have the choice to choose our placements?
Okay, so I am, after this session, Janine Harrison is going to talk specifically about field placements, because I know that lots of people have lots of questions about field placements. So I'm going to refer that to Janine for the next session.
Great question, yeah.
Great answer. Pass the buck.
Pass the buck, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're passing the buck to the expert.
More specific question, answers for that one. Anything else?
I think that's about it at the moment.
Okay. All right, so I'll just go through quickly. For the postgraduate, we also have the graduate certificate in trauma responsive practice. So this is an 18-unit program offered by social work, and it's offered both as online or external. And it can be normally completed in 6 months full-time or 1 year part-time. So this is a topic that has been newly designed over the last, we've had 1 semester that it's been taught, and it's really focusing on people who are working in the human services, have already got a professional degree and are wanting to really skill themselves up in working with people who experience trauma. So people who complete the course will develop an in-depth knowledge and skill base in working with people who experience trauma, and really engage with contemporary theory. Because the area of trauma has really moved very quickly over the last 20 years or so, and we're learning much more about how to respond and how to work with people who have experienced trauma. So apart from understanding the theory, it's also about developing skills and trauma-informed responses. So Chris teaches one of the topics, a skill-based topic, and I've taught the trauma-based topic. So I don't know if you wanted to add anything about that one.
We have a question about it, which is how do I enrol in the trauma course?
Oh, go to the enrolment section or ring the EPSWA course advice people. Would that be right, Jeremy?
Yes, you probably need an offer though.
Probably need an offer. So the answer would be the way that you enrol for any course at the uni would follow those steps, and along the way you'll find the graduate certificate of
trauma responsive practice.
Trauma responsive practice.
So there is a web page. I don't know if we can.
There's a flow page. There's also the
handbook.
Yeah. So if for Kerry, if you search for the topic on the Flinders site, you'll find it, and I'll probably find a link on how to enrol as well.
Okay, so there are 5 topics. So the 2 top topics, trauma and complexity and being trauma responsive, are core topics. So anyone that does this degree needs to complete those 2 topics. And then you can choose 2 of the options. So being child and young person centred, supervision or leadership in context of trauma, and then family violence, abuse and neglect. We're also moving to set these up as micro-credentials, so that means that people can enrol in individual topics if they don't want to complete a degree in the first instance. So that's a very quick version of the graduate certificate. So when you study full-time or part-time, it's important to know what resources are available to you on campus, and whether you're studying online or on campus, they're available to you. So we've just listed a few of the resources there. So health, counselling and disability, and you'll find all these on your flow pages, because it's important for you to be able to find the links. Are very important about if you're experiencing any challenges, or you need someone to talk to, or you need to see a doctor or a nurse. They also support people who have any learning issues to get access plans that will support you in achieving your learning outcomes. There's Flinders Connect, which will help with enrolments, International Student Services, Flinders University Students Association, so that's a good group to get linked into. You've also got Student Learning Support Services, who can provide you with academic support if you need to. You've got Yungarinthi Student Engagement for First Nations students, and then Oasis, which offers support around faith and spirituality, and they also have a drop-in. Don't they have a drop-in centre now?
Yes, and they also provide quite a diverse range of other groups. They have conversation groups for people for whom English is a second language, and a range of other services to support people. So whilst their central focus is on faith and spirituality, that's got a broad reach as well.
Okay. Now, Jeremy, I was wondering, did you want to do this one? I'll just...
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I work for the Student Admin Services team that can answer a lot of the specific queries that you have around enrolment and course advice. So we thought, if you've got a question about which topics do I do, where do I go from here? We just wanted to set that out. So through the event app that you'll all have used for orientation, you will have found the virtual hubs, and there's one for the College of Education, Psychology and Social Work, and we're staffing it between 11 and 1, and that was today, which is clearly gone, but also tomorrow as well. And there'll be people who can answer any live chat queries that you have regarding enrolments. So if you go onto that app tomorrow between 11 and 1, there'll be multiple people who'll be able to answer those questions. If there's a question, we've spoken before about Flinders Connect, and maybe if you've been on the hub earlier, you'd have been down by Flinders Connect by the library on the main campus. If there's any generic questions around enrolment or technical issues, Flinders Connect can help with all those questions. So if it's a kind of more general, Connect can help. If it's really specific around topics or what you need for your course, then come through via the virtual hub, or my next one, which is to go through Ask Flinders, and that's more of a specific query that you may have. So if you go through to Ask Flinders, again, you'll find it on the website. There's loads of information there, but also if you want to lodge an Ask Flinders request, that will come through to the team. And again, we'll work through all the queries that are coming through there. So if you've got a specific question, then lodge that request and we will get back to you. What we were trying to do is if you lodge an Ask Flinders request, if it's a straight answer, we'll give you that answer. No problem. It's the quickest way. Thank you very much. Sometimes you have questions that are very individual, and sometimes it needs to be a discussion with you. And if that is required, then we'll set up a face-to-face session. We'll book in a time and you can come in and talk to the enrolment and course advisor, and they can run through the questions that you might have. There are so many, when you come down to a very individual level, there are lots of factors that we need to work through, and it's good for us to have done that bit of research up front. So, we'd love you to be able to come to the college reception and just get an immediate answer, and if we can, of course we will. But by its very nature, these tend to be quite complex questions. It's good if we can just research what you've done in credit or prior study, and then we can give you a more succinct answer. So if it needs a discussion, we'll book in a discussion with you. If we can answer it there and then, we'll answer it through Ask Flinders. That's it, I think.
And I can say that Jeremy and his team are absolutely wonderful. So, and they always do get to you and answer the questions. So each course has a flow site, or we call it Flinders Learning Online. So there's a Master of Social Work course site, and there's a course site for the graduate certificate. And on those sites, you'll start to receive, if there are announcements, you might get announcements about topics, or you might get announcements from me or other leadership staff around the Master of Social Work course. So I know you get lots of emails, and yes, sometimes they become overwhelming, but try and keep up with your announcements, because they really do include important information about the course. We also, if there are job opportunities, sometimes we get contacted and we'll send those through to you as well. So we have a welcome lunch organised on the 28th of July. So we'd love it if you could all attend. It's from 1 till 2 o'clock at the tavern in the student hub. So it'd be lovely to come and, if you're new to social work, come and meet the lecturers, come and meet other students. Come and socialise. So now we have some chatting to do. So we just wanted to ask you about. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Sorry, I just have a question. So basically, is it too overwhelming if I do back-to-back lectures and tutorials?
Is it overwhelming? Well, that's really, I can't answer that for you. Yeah, I mean, some people probably would like to come on campus and just do their study or, in a couple of days and then leave the other days to do their assignments. But it just depends on your commitments. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So how strict is to be on time on the classes? Because some of the classes are back to back. So if you're 5 or 10 minutes late to the next face-to-face session,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Well, usually the classes run for about 50 minutes. So you have,
Okay. I didn't know.
yeah. So we give you time to get from one class to another.
Okay.
Yeah. So your lectures should finish about 10 to the hour. So you can then get to your next class, and also the tutorials will finish 10 to the hour. So if you've got a lecturer that keeps going over time, then you might need to remind them that you need to go to another class, and so that's what the policy is. Yeah. So you should have time. We don't expect you to fly between one. Well, it'd be nice, but
Yeah. No, it's just, I was thinking about
just
it.
practically.
Because some of the timetable looked like very crowded with
Yes.
different topics.
People
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. And so it's like, okay, so I don't have time between one thing and another.
Yeah.
But now that you explain about
Yeah.
the time,
Yeah, we
it
just
makes
don't want
sense.
to be late to,
Yeah.
to the lecturer and kind of things.
yeah, and the lecturers are understanding. They know you've got to come from one class to another, and you'll find your way around as well. Some people take a couple of weeks. I mean, I've been here a long time. I still don't know my way around to some of the classes, so it does take a while to get orientated onto the, to the campus. Yeah.
I have another question. So how long, like if you enroll in a face-to-face model and then you're taking all the classes face-to-face, but you decided that maybe it's not working for you and you want to take maybe one or two online, how long do I have to decide?
Yes. Do you want to answer that?
So, Jeb, a census date, isn't it, is the important thing about when to change from a face-to-face
To
topic
online.
to one that might be delivered online. So I'll let Jeremy explain because it's a little bit technical.
So census date, and there are lots of key dates that are on the university website. So census date is the last date for you to withdraw without incurring any financial penalties, and it won't go on your transcript. So you need to be aware of census date. I think is your reference though more staying within the topic, but moving between an online to a face-to-face class. And I think, and this will really vary between topics. There are some that have face-to-face classes and an online class, so you need to choose which class you're doing within the topic, and that will be really topic dependent. And I think with all these things and all the some of the sessions that I've been attending today, this is really about talking to people at an early stage. If you want to change, then just have that conversation. And I guess to the previous question about feeling overwhelmed, it's just have those conversations really early, because there's generally solutions that can be worked through, but have the conversation with the right person.
Yeah, and I'd really support that. If you've got any, you're finding any challenges or difficulties around your study plan, please have talk to your topic coordinator or make a time to come and see me. In terms of you can't really flip from being on campus to online because that means you've got to change your enrolment. But if people are, for example, if you become ill or you might get COVID and you can't attend on campus because some people, some of the topics have on-campus requirements. So my topic, you have to be on, and Chris's topic, you have to attend at least 80% of the classes on campus. But if you're sick at home with COVID or something else has happened, then you need to let us know, and we can really be flexible and organise, maybe set up some online activities or work out another way that you can finish your requirements, because we don't want you to be disadvantaged as well. Yeah. Did you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. So we get pretty creative as to how we can catch people up, particularly with COVID.
Yeah.
But as Jeremy was saying, really look at the dates because that's important. So changing from one version is sometimes within a topic can be okay, but other times it's really quite difficult. So for example, in my topic was talking about before, there are two different census dates. One for the non-semester, which happens before the semester version. So you've got to really really look at that closely if you're thinking about making a change. So if you are wanting to make a change, give yourself 1 or 2 weeks and then go, oh yeah, this is not right for me. Act sooner rather than later, I think, is probably the best thing you can do in that regard.
So check your day. Now we've got all these polls open, but
They're
I'm
open
just
now.
mindful of the time. So please fill them in at your leisure, so we can sort of, see, get your answers about things. But I just want to leave the last 5 minutes for questions, if people have got any questions, because we're almost, our time is almost come to an end. Any questions from people online? One of the things that as I said, I've been teaching in the Masters and the Bachelors since 2016 full time. I'd just like to say that just some things that I've learned is if you have any questions or you have any difficulties or you're worried about anything, please speak to us, okay? The lecturers are there to help you and support you. And we really want you to be successful in your learning, but we can't help you if we don't know that you're having some difficulties or some challenges, and don't be scared to ask us. We're lovely people, we're very approachable, and we'd rather have that communication with you than you really becoming very anxious about the topics. Okay? You might want to add to that.
Yeah, and I think for many of you, this will be your first time in an Australian education setting as well, and you might find there are significant differences in the way that we do things to the ways in which you've experienced education previously. We know that from working with literally thousands of students from overseas, and often our mode of teaching is much more dialogic. We want to have conversations a lot of the time, and whereas we know that a lot of students have come from educational systems which is very didactic. In other words, the master tells and you repeat, and students tell us that's the mode of education. And so when we invite discussion or even debate, that can be quite challenging. But it's important growing into the emerging practitioner, the professional, that you again develop those skills of questioning, rather than just receiving information, to start to think really critically about ideas, and with respect, to challenge ideas. It's not a debate. It's not a sense of not smashing someone down, but it's engaging in that intellectual discussion, and often quite philosophical discussion as well, with rigour and interest. So we know, many students have reported that to us, that wow, this is really quite a different experience. And likewise for studying online, many students say, well, gee, studying online is a brand new experience too. Maybe not over the last couple of years. We've seemed to have bridged, there's rapid bridging, but still, if not online, then the way that the Flinders Flow site is set up. So I guess the suggestion is get in early and get your head around the technology during O Week. Really have a good play on Flow, so you start to understand how it works and you get very familiar, so that you're not lost. Within each Flow site, there are discussion forums where you can pose questions, and we very much set that up so that you help each other. Yeah? So often the quickest way is pose a question, and often another student will know the answer. So don't feel you're alone. And if you've got a question, sure as lots of other people have got the same question, but they just haven't written it down. So we absolutely invite you to do that. We're ending in 1 minute and 53 seconds. 49 seconds.
They shut us down, so we're all recorded. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to do the official thank you, everyone, for coming. And we look forward to meeting you and wish you all the best in your studies. And as I said, if you've got any questions, please let us know. Okay.
Okay.